The day started like any other, quiet and routine. I had just returned from work, exhausted from a week that had been longer than usual, looking forward to a calm evening with my family. But the moment I stepped through the door, I sensed something was off. My wife's face was pale, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a piece of paper I had never seen before. The air in the room felt heavy, charged with tension and unease. I I have something to tell you, she began, her voice faltering. I immediately felt a knot tighten in my chest, a premonition of impending disaster. She hesitated, as if the words were physically painful to release. Then, finally, she spat out the truth in a way that I could never have prepared for. I'm pregnant, and it might not be yours. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, trying to process the shock. The words repeated themselves in my head like a sinister echo, each repetition heavier than the last. How could she say something like this? After everything we had been through, after the life we had built together, after the vows we had taken, she had decided to betray me in the most intimate and devastating way possible. I stayed silent, letting her finish. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to gauge my reaction, hoping, perhaps, for forgiveness or shock, maybe even a small spark of empathy. But I didn't give her what she wanted. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, and I didn't plead. I simply looked at her, calm, composed, and resolute. You need to leave, I said finally, my voice steady. The words hit her like a punch, though I delivered them without malice. I wasn't shouting, I wasn't begging, I was reclaiming control. She blinked, stunned, as if she hadn't expected such a reaction. Leave the house tonight, I continued. We need space. You need to think about what you've done. She tried to argue, to twist the situation, to make me feel guilty. I didn't mean for this to happen, she cried. It's complicated. You don't understand. I shook my head. I understand perfectly. You made choices. Now you must face the consequences. I will not let your betrayal define our home or my life any longer. After she left, I sat down and began to plan. This wasn't about revenge in the childish sense of anger or humiliation. It was about strategy, about ensuring that she could never hurt me or manipulate my life again. I needed a plan that was thorough, deliberate, and irreversible. Step 1. Evidence. I went through her phone, her emails, her messages. Every hint, every secret interaction, every hidden call was documented. I wasn't snooping to satisfy curiosity. I was gathering proof of betrayal, proof that would protect me legally, emotionally, and socially. Step 2. Legal groundwork. I contacted a lawyer, explained the situation, and began preparing for the possibility of divorce. Custody arrangements, financial protections, legal documentation, every step was carefully planned. I wanted to make sure that she could not manipulate the situation or use the pregnancy as leverage against me. Step 3. Emotional containment. I refused to let her see the full extent of my anger or my plans. She had thrived on control and manipulation for months, maybe even years. If I allowed her to sense panic, fear, or desperation, she would have exploited it. So I maintained a calm exterior, letting my silence, my measured responses, and my collected demeanor speak louder than any words I could have shouted. The following days were tense. She tried to reach out, to manipulate, to guilt me into speaking with her or softening my stance. Every message, every phone call, every tearful plea was met with the same calm refusal. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I simply maintained boundaries and let her panic grow. Then came the confrontation. I invited her back to the house one evening under the guise of a calm conversation. I laid everything out. Her betrayals, her manipulation, her lack of accountability. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I let the evidence speak for itself. Every text, every secret meeting, every hidden lie was presented methodically. She tried to deflect, tried to cry, tried to manipulate, but it was useless. The truth was undeniable. The weight of her actions bore down on her, and for the first time, she was truly powerless. Finally, I addressed the pregnancy, calmly, Firmly, I told her that regardless of the outcome, she would not use it as leverage. I would take necessary legal steps to ensure the child's welfare was protected, but I would not allow her betrayal to dictate the terms. Her face fell, tears streaming down her cheeks as she realized that the carefully constructed safety net she had assumed existed was gone. In the weeks that followed, the divorce process began. Custody arrangements were prepared with care, ensuring the children's well-being remained the top priority. Financial protections were put in place, securing my future and limiting her ability to manipulate or exploit the situation. I remained calm throughout, presenting myself as composed, fair, and resolute. Meanwhile, the emotional fallout began to take its toll on her. She realized that her words, her actions, and her betrayal had consequences far greater than she had anticipated. She had assumed she could shock, manipulate, and control the situation with fear and uncertainty. She was wrong. The revenge wasn't about public humiliation. It wasn't about making her suffer in front of friends or family. It was about reclaiming power, restoring balance, and ensuring that her betrayal could no longer affect my life. Every calculated step, the evidence, the legal measures, the emotional containment, was a silent but devastating form of retribution. Months later, I had rebuilt my life. The home, once shared, was now a space of peace and order. My children were safe, stable, and protected from the chaos she had introduced. My dignity, once threatened, was fully restored. She had cried, pleaded, and panicked, but it had been too late. The moment she announced the pregnancy and the uncertainty of paternity, she had triggered a chain of events that she could not control, could not reverse, and could not survive intact. In the end, I had achieved what I wanted, not through rage or public spectacle, but through patience, precision, and strategy. Her tears were proof of her failure, of her lack of foresight, and of her underestimation of me. The betrayal had been severe, the shock unimaginable, but through calculated action, I turned her confession into my advantage. I reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my family's stability, proving that even the deepest betrayals can be met with intelligence, composure, and decisive action. She had tried to manipulate, deceive, and frighten me with her confession, but in the end, the real power belonged to me. The child, the betrayal, the panic, all were neutralized by preparation, patience, and strategy. And in that calm, methodical response, I found satisfaction far deeper than any rash revenge could have offered. She cried, but I emerged unbroken, resolute, and in control. Proof that the sharpest revenge is not anger, but the quiet reclaiming of everything she thought she could destroy.